Hey, and welcome to Watch It Played. My name is Rodney Smith, and in my videos, normally I'll invite you at some point to join me at the table. And that's never been more appropriate than in this video, because here we're going to be talking about a table. This is the table I've shot all my videos on for the past 3 years. It's the Denny model from GeekNSon's, and I have a full video going over this table and its features, which you'll find linked in the description below if you'd like to check it out. Now, I use this for both work and for play, and it has been fantastic. But on that note, I do want to offer some disclaimers. This table was provided to me back in 2017 by GeekNSon's, and I want you to know that for the purposes of full disclosure and any biases I might have. But again, my video on this table goes over it in full detail, so you can just see for yourself what it is and what it offers. You don't really have to take my word for anything. But it's not 2017 anymore. At the time of this recording, it's 2020, and GeekNSon's reached out to see if I'd have an interest in showcasing one of their other tables loaded with features they were excited about, to see if it would excite me, and maybe you if you're looking for a new gaming table. So that's what we're going to go over today. Now, that table is in the other room, but there's just a couple of things I want to go over first. One, I'm not being paid for this video, but the table was provided to me, and there's no argument. These things ain't cheap, so I can appreciate you might have concerns over biases on my part, and to help with that, I'm going to go into as much detail as possible about the table. So you can just see things for what they are. You don't really have to take my word for it. Secondly, the other room isn't lit or sound dampened like this one, so the video and audio quality isn't going to be as nice as over here, and I apologize for that in advance. But otherwise, if you're ready to get started, let's go. Now, this model they call the Henry, and I would say this is a little more substantial than the Denny. It's got a bigger section here and a more decorative frame around the outside edge. And I know this looks like a dining room table and not really a gaming table, but that's the point. This really can take the place of your dining room table, hiding in plain sight, just waiting for a game to happen. Or half a game to happen. I'll show you what I mean by that. There's a handy tab right here, hopefully you can see this, and you press up on it, and it pops up one of these leaves, so you can grab and then remove it. Once you've taken one of the leaves out, the rest of them remove very easily. And they have a separate storage box you can buy to drop these into for easy and convenient storage. And on some of the tables, you can also add in a feature so that these leaves will slide in directly underneath the table and out of your way. Now, here's what I meant about half a game waiting to happen. You can take away as many of these leaves as you like, and then slide this included piece into position here. And now you still have a spot for people to enjoy meals or other things on this area of the table, and an area for gaming. And this just keeps components and other things like dice from sliding under here where it would be hard to get them back. I should also mention that the table is spill-proof. That means a liquid spilled on this surface will go into the grooves and around the outside edges and be redirected away from any games that you have underneath. Also, the grooves here on this inner edge of the table allow you to put your hand of cards there while playing, which means your hands are freed up for snacks. Now, another nice thing is that because you have this vaulted area, you can leave a game set up, as I had, and then put the leaves back on top of the table so that the game is here for you to come back to when you want to play it, but you can also still use your table like a regular table if you want to in the meantime. Now, once you've removed all of the leaves, you're ready to play one giant game or maybe a couple of different games like I have set up here. And this table will comfortably seat 6 people, 2 on either of these sides and then 1 on each end. And I suppose if you had bench seating, you might be able to fit 3 people on either side. And if you're curious, the length of this table is 71 inches by 43. And there's different sizes you can pick from, and you can even customize the size of your table if you want to by visiting their website. You'll also be able to pick the color of gaming surface you want from the ones that they have available. Though I will mention, these surfaces will gather dust and other particles over time, so having a lint roller handy that you can just clean them off with is a good idea. But what I really like about these surfaces is that they're cushioned underneath, and that means picking up really any gaming component is a breeze, but especially cards, which sometimes, as you know, on a hard surface can be hard to pick up. These you'll have no problem with. Now, here's something else that's pretty cool. If you lift up on these tabs, you can remove the fabric insert. This is actually mounted to a board. And then if you want to put this somewhere, you now have an acrylic layer on top. And with the included plunger, you can lift this up. And now underneath of this, you can set a map or some board game pieces or whatever it is that you want to keep in place. Now this won't be moved. And this is great for role playing because if you have a dry erase marker or something, you can mark right on the map and then wipe this off afterwards. So again, very handy for a variety of different types of board games, but also particularly role-playing games. Next up, I have a feature to show you that I think they might have added specifically to this table. I haven't seen it on their site, so I'm not sure if this is available for other tables. You see, I don't mind playing games down in this vault area, but I personally like having the pieces more at the surface level, especially when I'm shooting a video. So check this out. Under here is a little button, and when I press it, something magical kind of happens. The bottom layer of the vault rises, so now the playing surface can be right where I want it to be. If I want it flush to the top of the table, that's no problem. Or if I want it halfway down, that works too. Now there is a catch. The contraption that makes this vault go down or up actually is quite loud when it's going. I had this muted earlier so you didn't have to listen to it, but you know, it's pretty loud. Now you really only have to tolerate this while you're making the adjustment, but it's not exactly pleasant to listen to. Now, the question is the benefit, I think, of having this automatically be able to raise and lower worth it as opposed to just having some kind of manual crank? If it was just the noise, maybe. But there's one other problem that I find a little more concerning. All right, I'm gonna have to go handheld to show you this. You see, under the table, these mechanical arms that raise and lower the platform extend beneath the bottom. And that means if you're sitting here on this end of the table or on the other end, because there's arms over there as well, it's competing with your leg space. And I don't really think that's ideal. I don't want guests bumping into this with their leg as they sit here. Speaking of which, this particular model of table introduced another challenge for me personally. Now, because this area of the table is so much thicker than the other table I have, it means that either the height of the table was going to be higher, or I'd have to request shorter legs to bring the height down, but then that would sacrifice legroom space, right? Now, when I first received this table, it had longer table legs, like this. And this boosted the table up about an inch or so higher than what you see right now. Basically, it was what you'd expect for normal legroom space. But then when you add this extra thick area here on top of that, it kind of felt like my arms, when I was resting them on the table, were sort of chicken winging out. To me, it didn't feel as natural as I'd like or expect when I'm sitting at a table. So I asked for shorter legs, and that's what I have on it now. So the table surface is lower, which is pretty close to about where I'd want it. But then that increases the problem of these hydraulics under here taking up space near your legs. Now, although there's room for my leg to get under here, there's not a lot of extra room, and I'm definitely bumping into these when my leg's there. To me, the hydraulics felt like an experimental feature, and while interesting, I think it needs to be tweaked to really be worth it. A feature you'll get with this table are lights, and these come installed along a strip here on this side of the table and another one on the other side. And these are controlled with a free app that I have here installed on my phone. So let me just turn them on. You can see I have these set to blue, but you can change them to any color you want within the app. And you can also change the intensity as well. If I want, I can turn the lights down. Now, my only complaint with these lights is they're using a contraption they weren't using with the other table. And in order to show you what I'm talking about, I have to go get it and disconnect it, which will turn the lights off. So let me just turn these lights off anyway, and I'll explain what I mean. So for these lights to work, you've got to get this contraption here, which they sent me with the table, and plug this into a wall, and then plug it into your internet, and then this talks to the table, and then your app talks to this, I believe. And you have to have that plugged in order for any of this to work. So now that this is unplugged, I can't turn the lights on or off or make any adjustments. Now the other table came with a remote. You just turned it on and then you could control the lights. And I like this a lot more. I don't want to have to leave this plugged in all the time or have to fiddle with it every time I want to change the lights. The other weird thing is sometimes when I just plug the table in, the lights are on by default and I don't always want the lights on, so then I have to hook this back up, plug it in to turn them off. So I really think this is the better option, and if they give you the option to pick this, I personally would. Now here's a flawless feature. I love these. These you can pick up separately and they attach into the railing that goes all the way around the table. So anyone sitting there can put their wine glass in a wine glass holder, or maybe you need a cup holder, or there's trays here for components or dice or anything you want to put inside of them. These are really handy because they just keep things off the table, giving you more room there for your games, but still keeping things that you want to have close by close by. Now here's a slightly bigger accessory, but this can be pretty handy, especially if you have some rule books that you want to keep nearby, but you don't necessarily want them taking up table space. Well, now you've got a little shelf drawer here you can put these in, and this makes for a great writing surface as well while you're playing. Now this might look like some kind of add-on accessory, but all of this actually is built right into the table. This is a drawer that's on one end, and there is actually a similar drawer on the other end, but it doesn't have quite as an elaborate a setup. But this would be great if you're doing a role-playing game and the Dungeon Master wants to sit on this end, have their book up here, maybe their DM screen, and then anything else they want hidden here for easy access and writing on. So just to show you what this looks like when it's all closed up, I'll remove these pieces. This part here comes down, and then the whole drawer just slides in and disappears. Another feature with this table is the charging station down here. There's a USB port you can plug into to charge your devices, but that's not all. This table can also play music because there's a whole speaker system that's built into the bottom of the table. So if you have a certain mood you want to set, maybe you're trying to create some atmosphere, you can play music that way. And it is really high quality sound. Now this is a little hard to show you, but there's 3 separate speakers underneath this table, and that's why the sound is so good. These are quality speakers, and they're spreading out the sound evenly underneath the table, so it really sounds like it's coming from the table. You know, despite this video being about a table, I'm spending an awful lot of time on the floor. The other thing you have to consider is that if this table is pumping out music and charging your devices and putting on a light show, then it's going to have to be getting its power from somewhere. And so you have a cord here that you have to plug into your table and run, hopefully, to an outlet that you have nearby. So that's something else you want to consider when you're thinking about the placement of this table. And also, you don't want someone tripping over this cord. So I'd recommend you put some electrical tape down on top of it so that doesn't happen accidentally. The speakers are really cool, but one thing you've got to consider is how heavy this table is with the speakers and the drawers and all the extra wood. Even if you ignore that this table has a hydraulic system that yours probably wouldn't, this table just ends up being very heavy. And you know, once you get it in place, that's not such a big deal, but getting it here to my basement was a real challenge. I mean, even with the legs off and everything else stripped away, this table surface is just big and heavy and kind of awkward, and getting it through a door and downstairs and around a corner was really difficult. You'll want 3 or possibly 4 people to assist you. Now, I brought this down here with my 16-year-old son, just him and I, and honestly, it was kind of dangerous. Now, that said, these tables are shipped incredibly well. I mean, they are packed and secured in expertly arranged containers with each piece wrapped and individually protected. This table came all the way from the UK, where they're located, over here to Canada and arrived here in great shape. But shipping is another factor to consider. When this arrived at my home, the company that GeekNSon's contracted didn't offer services to get the table off the truck. They brought the truck to us, but then we had to get it off the truck. And that was quite an awkward and stressful process, honestly, because as you can imagine, I don't really have the tools or people power handy to get gigantic heavy boxes off a truck on my own. Thankfully, although it was outside their contract, the driver did take pity on me and assisted, but you'll want to know exactly what your delivery service provides and be prepared for it. Now, for the next part of this video, let's go back to the studio where we've got some better lighting and some better audio. The other challenge when you're buying a huge, gigantic box full of a table and having it shipped from another country is that you're going to have to deal with shipping and custom brokers for your country as it comes in. Again, in the interest of full disclosure, I just want to tell you, this was not a picnic. I was getting calls from custom agents in Canada trying to get information related to the shipment and to sign documents and provide details I had no idea about. Again, I don't normally do massive freight shipments. So this got very stressful for me at times. Now on the upside, because of the experience I had, GeekNSon's has said they'll never be working with that shipping broker again. But this is still an area they need to be careful about when dealing with their overseas customers, because if you're paying thousands of dollars for a table, you'd want everything to go smoothly. Though it's worth pointing out, this was likely something that I had to deal with because, well, 1, I'm in Canada, and 2, I'm in an area of Canada that they likely don't ship to very often. Let's just say I'm a little out of the way. Now, from what they've told me, in the UK, they offer white glove service, which means GeekNSon's actually delivers the table to you, sets it up and everything. So obviously there'd be no problems there. And in the US, they make so many deliveries that, as I understand it, they've already partnered with trusted partners to work with. So this particular problem I had may very well be very much limited to me, but again, in the interest of full disclosure, I wanted to share that with you. And now that I've tried both the Henry and the Denny table, what do I think? For me, the size and functions of my previous table are actually a better fit, and for that reason, I'm going to be sticking with it. And I still highly recommend this Denny model. Now, I think the Henry, the one I showed you earlier, could be a good fit for someone else, especially since the main thing that I didn't care for, the hydraulics, aren't even a standard feature. Now, a table model that they just released recently that I really like is the Megan. This, to me, is closer to what I have with the Denny table. It's sleek, it's minimalistic, and it's super functional. And you know, I think it's worth saying, obviously a board gaming table is a luxury item. It's expensive, and having one doesn't make you more of a gamer, but it is a very nice item to have, and it's a lovely way to showcase a game to friends. So if you have the budget for it and it's something you want, and you're looking for a good quality gaming table, the ones from Geek & Son I can say are top notch. Just make sure you're getting the features that suit your interests. Now, in the case of the Henry, I think they were looking to surprise me with some bonus features, but the reality is, I prefer efficiency and function. In other words, I'm boring. Fortunately, they've got lots of choices for people like me who are boring and for people who want all kinds of fancy stuff in their table. I'm confident that you can find a table from them that would suit your tastes. Either way, I hope you found this video helpful. And if you have questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them. But until next time, thanks for watching.